Nigerians are growing increasingly anxious about the surge in violence across the country's north and central regions. The crisis has prompted President Bola Tinubu to declare a nationwide security emergency. In just 1 week, gunmen kidnapped more than 300 children and teachers from a Catholic school in Niger State, another 25 girls from a school in Kebbi, and abducted dozens of worshippers from a church in Kwara. 10 northern states have now shut schools over security fears, and so far, no group has claimed responsibility for any of these attacks. Now, the U.S. is paying close attention, especially to attacks on Christian communities. President Donald Trump has warned that Washington may step in if they are not protected. Nigeria's government insists that the violence affects everyone, but that offers little comfort to many Nigerians who are watching the crisis deepen. So we asked Nigerians how they feel about the idea of foreign intervention.
I strongly support American intervention in Nigeria because the country is unable to contain the growing insurgency. The situation has become dire.
Well, Nigeria is a sovereign nation. So as a sovereign nation, Nigeria should be able to solve its own political problems.
I accept US to come. I accept them to come. Any kind of intervention they want to come, and as long as it stops the killing. But the killing is too much, like every day.
I don't think if it is in terms of sending troops to come and invade the country in the name of in the name of restoring security, I don't think it will go well for our country.
I want them to come and help us. We need help. Nigeria is in danger, so I think we need their intervention.
U.S. military intervention is not the best for now. Rather, what we want from U.S. is collaboration.
Now, as communities bear the brunt of these attacks, Nigeria's security forces are under pressure too. They're stretched across multiple crises, including a long-running jihadist insurgency. Soldiers on the front line say they're fighting with little equipment, low pay, and poor living conditions. DW correspondent Azizat Olaoluwa looks at the challenges facing the soldiers asked to keep Nigeria safe.
This footage was sent to DW News by a Nigerian soldier showing the living condition of his unit on the front lines. He has been fighting in the country's northeast for 4 years, the epicenter of Nigeria's insecurity. We won't mention his real name and location. His real voice will also not be used to protect him from getting punished like others, he says, shared similar clips online in the past. We will call him Soldier X.
This is the place where soldiers are living. We face challenges during rainy season because of the leaky roof. We put tarpaulin up here, but it doesn't help much. So when rain falls, water pours in.
Soldier X says those serving on the front lines face many challenges besides poor living conditions. And he sent this additional text saying,
"We don't have enough arms and ammunition. Each soldier has 2 magazines and 30 rounds are loaded into each one. If the 60 rounds finish, that means they have endangered our lives. That is why you hear stories about soldiers running away from criminals or getting killed because we don't have enough weapons to fight them."
Nigeria has less than 300,000 active personnel in the military serving a country of over 200 million. For years, Nigerian soldiers deployed to the northeast have posted videos like this online, complaining about food, inadequate weapons and meager support, making their work all the more difficult and dangerous.
Our soldiers, our military, they need to be motivated. We have soldiers out there that their salaries in a month is still not up to the minimum wage.
Nigeria has been fighting a 16-year insurgency with Boko Haram and its offshoot, Islamic State West Africa Province, ISWAP. Different criminal gangs are also operating across the country, with thousands killed and millions displaced. Clashes among Christian farmers and Muslim herdsmen have also worsened its security situation.
Nigeria is now number 6 in the latest Global Terrorism Index as the country experiences a resurgence of violence by jihadist Boko Haram and other armed groups. Apart from civilian casualties, hundreds of soldiers have been killed in attacks on army bases and ambushes by militants who are believed to own more sophisticated weapons than the military.
The outcome of an investigation called by the then Army Chief, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, into a social media video showing soldiers complaining about poor food has not been published. The Army considers public complaints by soldiers as a breach of military ethics and discipline. But Nigeria's Minister of Information assures us that everything is fine.
These are just isolated instances. You find, as always, disgruntled elements of the armed forces, putting out such kind of video. But on the whole, I think this is not the direction. I think many of them are happy with what government is providing for them.
But Soldier X says the military leadership is not honest about soldiers' welfare.
It's a lie. I repeat, it's a lie. They are not doing anything for us. Nothing. They are lying to the president that soldiers are living well. But it's not true. We are suffering.
The new army chief, appointed by President Bola Tinubu, has assured that the welfare of the troops remains top priority. But it won't be the first time such a promise was made.
We're joined now by international security analyst Fola Aina from the Department of Development Studies at the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. It's good to have you with us. We've just seen in our report soldiers in Nigeria ill-equipped to do their jobs on the front line. How can one of Africa's largest armies be lacking the tools to do its job?
Thank you very much, Tommy, for having me on. So as much as it sounds like a surprise, this is a reality a lot of African countries are currently confronted with. To be able to effectively respond to the current security challenges, there's a need for the employment of new technologies and equipment. And some of these, for instance, include unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. They also include intelligence and surveillance and reconnaissance aircrafts, most of which require heavy advanced technology, for their deployment. And unfortunately, countries like Nigeria do not necessarily have, these technologies in place. And so they are mostly dependent on having to acquire them, from abroad. And now the process of purchasing some of these equipments are not just a straitjacket approach. They require lots of factors that go into place, from the moment of procurement to the moment of delivery. And so in many ways, this could explain some of the gaps and delays that some of these African militaries, including Nigeria, are having to confront with and deal with.
We're seeing a wave of kidnappings and attacks, and I'm just wondering if that, for example, has to do with the sudden international attention in it, or is it something else that's driving this wave of insecurity?
So it's important to also note that given the current international attention this situation on the ground has generated, non-state actors, whether they are bandits, whether they are jihadi groups, would naturally want to take advantage, of the attention that has come their way, and that's in many ways why you can also see that they may be leveraging on some of this media coverage and attention that they are getting to embolden themselves towards instigating more conflict on the ground and also more attacks, because they know that by doing so, they're able to generate more attention towards their cause and potentially, generate the prospects of having new recruits join, their fold. So again, let's be reminded that some of these organizations mostly thrive on propaganda and false information dissemination, which they use to their advantage, against the states.
With what's within the capacity of Nigeria, what would it take to actually turn the situation around?
First of all, address the underlying root causes of the problem in the first instance. Make it less, attractive, for people or for non-state actors to be able to pick up arms against the state. And when you look at this, one of the first things that needs to be done is to head-on tackle the issue around poverty. Poverty has been seen in many ways as a significant contributor or driver towards conflict escalation. The second thing here is the issue around inequalities. Okay, inequalities needs to be addressed as well. There are issues around unemployment. There are issues also around mass illiteracy. And then when you look at the political side of things, there are issues bordering around the continued weakening of political institutions, state institutions. Okay, which makes it difficult, to be able to address some of the issues bordering around conflict. You also think about issues bordering around marginalization, persistent marginalization, and also poor governance. And then there are also the environmental dimensions to all of this. So you think about environmental degradation exacerbated by conflict, climate change, and how climate change in this sense has served as a trigger, as a force multiplier, of conflict on the ground. And then also when you think about the diversity and the place of ethno-religious conflicts also, how sometimes issues bordering around existing tensions become escalated. Intolerance in some instances can also fuel some of the tensions we see on the ground. A few examples of some of the things that can be done more rigorously, militarily, would be the need for the deployment of more special operational forces and the creation of forward operating bases that involve special operational forces, giving their unique training to be able to respond to asymmetric warfare, and also the need for more covert action. All right, there's a need for the military to pay more concerted effort at infiltrating, some of these non-state armed groups and trying to destroy and degrade them from within.
Can Nigeria realistically fix this on its own, or does it need outside help? And I'm talking more than just intelligence sharing. Can Nigeria do more with outside help?
No country is an island on its own. Nigeria, to a large extent, could leverage the relationship and goodwill it already has from the international community, particularly with regards to partnerships. But let me say emphatically that any effort to address insecurity in Nigeria has to be one that has Nigeria taking lead in collaboration with its other partners. At every point in time, even the most powerful countries in the world need help from other countries. Nigeria currently is in that state. It recognizes it's in that state. It has reached out for help. But as I said very clearly and very emphatically, for Nigeria to get out of the woods, it must be able to leverage its relationship with other countries, and whatever cooperation, it has to be Nigerian-led, not any other way around. Thank you.
International security analyst Fola Aina, thank you very much for speaking to us and giving us your insights.
Thank you so much for having me.